Howdy folks, welcome back to Research Methods. I'm your instructor, Dr. Gabriel Sáenz, and on this 10th week of the course, we're going to be taking a look at descriptive and correlational methods. What the heck does that even mean? Well, a simple way to think about it is that we're going to be talking about how we can know the difference between data that tells us something and data that helps us draw conclusions or make inferences about relationships. That sounds kind of vague, and although this week is not going to be too long, we're not going to have a lot of material, the material is going to be a little bit complicated, and you may need to think about it for a little bit after you're done working with the activities or watching the videos. So let's get into the subsections. First, we'll take a look at descriptive versus inferential methods. Inferential methods are those where you gather data with the purpose of drawing conclusions about how things work, whereas descriptive methods are those where we just want to learn what is going on. Correlations versus correlational data is a subsection about how can we tell that our data is showing us a relationship that is meaningful versus a relationship that is just coincidental. It's kind of like when you go into court and you say, oh, well, this person was in a building and a crime was committed in that building at the same time. Does that mean that they committed the crime? Maybe. How we know those two things are related or not related that's what that correlations versus correlational data section is about. Lastly, we'll look at causality. How can we be sure that one thing causes another? Spoiler alert, we really can't, but there are some things we can do to be more sure. Anyway, let's get started with the first section, descriptive versus inferential research. This is really one of the simplest things that you can learn that will help you watch out for conclusions in research, conclusions in news articles that are really not backed up by evidence. So first, let's describe descriptive versus inferential research. Descriptive research is used to describe a data set. It's used to describe information. It's usually used in research as a pre-analysis method or as an initial set of observations. So when you're looking at descriptive research, people are usually just going to be talking about means or standard deviations or ranges, while this is a form of qualitative data, it's not going to really involve any analyses, and so it can't really tell you whether there are relationships between variables, just what information is going on. Inferential research, on the other hand, is going to be used for generalizations and to check to see if there are relationships between variables. Inferential research is also going to be designed to help make predictions about the future or about unknown data sets. So these inferential research is always going to involve some sort of analysis, like your t-tests and correlations, or if you've taken statistics, ANOVA, regression, chi-squares, modeling, lots of different things can be done with inferential statistics. Now, to give you a simple example of the difference between descriptive and inferential research, let's talk about chickens. So if descriptive research is used to describe the world and inferential research is used to provide evidence for a relationship or to show that there are conclusions, you might imagine that what you're really doing is you're saying, okay, well, in this picture, descriptive research would say there are some chickens and roosters, and there are more chickens than roosters. We can definitely say that it looks like there's one rooster here in the middle and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 chickens. Let me know in the comments if I didn't manage to count that correctly. But so descriptive research would just tell us there are 13 chickens and there was one rooster. We can't draw any conclusions about the relationships between chickens and roosters. Inferential research, alternatively, would do something like this. It might say there are significantly fewer roosters than chickens, so other groups of chicken herds would likely have fewer roosters than chickens in their group setup. So the difference here is that with the descriptive research, you're just learning about facts, whereas in the inferential research, we're trying to make generalizations and predictions. While descriptive research is useful, it's usually used as a basis for producing inferential research. In the real world, you might think about descriptive versus inferential research as talking about factual information versus conclusions from evidence. Uh, Say, for example, you have a research question like this. Um, do many people study using flashcards? That would require descriptive research. That would require factual information. You could get means and standard deviations. Like 80% of people use flashcards with a standard deviation of 4.5, so somewhere between 75 and 85% of students use uh, flashcards. In reference to the chicken example, you might get a descriptive report like this. The average hen house has 80.2 more chickens than roosters with a standard deviation of 4.5 chicken difference. For your inferential research, again, you're going to be drawing conclusions from evidence. So a research question there might be, do flashcards improve students' test performance? So it's asking for a relationship between using flashcards and test performance. Or you might have a question like, are there always fewer roosters than chickens in a chicken herd? I don't know what a bunch of chickens is called. Let me know in the comments if you know what a bunch of chickens are called. So you might get a report like this. There was a significant difference in the amount of chickens and roosters, and so you can draw the conclusion there that usually you don't want to have very many roosters in a chicken pack, or there you just usually won't be very many roosters in a chicken pack, or something like that. So why do we need to be so careful about where we draw our conclusions from? Couldn't we just say, well, there were more chickens than roosters, therefore there's a relationship between the two? Well, remember from our previous classes that you can't always be sure about information. Your data is always going to be muddy. There's always going to be girls that are taller than boys, and in some cases there may be more roosters in a chicken cluster than chickens. So that's why we need analyses. And that's why we need a little bit more complicated methods to draw conclusions. These next two sections are going to be all about how we can draw those conclusions and what we can say versus what we can't say about our ideas. So take a moment to complete the next activity, and I hope this is interesting for you.